Good evening, English winners. Now, with English Win, I try to keep things simple, non-controversial, and not political. So, let's talk about Donald Trump. Now, this video is meant to be a conversation between myself and people who live outside of the U.S. If you live in the U.S., if you're wearing a MAGA hat, I don't want to hear from you. If you're a never Trumper and you're screaming in the streets against Trump, I don't want to hear from you either, okay? This is between people who live outside the U.S. and me only, okay? And here's my question for you guys. How has Donald Trump affected you? Or how do you think he's affected you in 2017 and in this year, 2018? I want to know right down in the comments. So in this video, we're going to talk about taxes. We're going to talk about immigration. We're going to talk about H-1B visas. We're going to talk about what I would do if I were trying to go to America and lived outside of the US. And we're also going to talk about regulations. These are government rules that affect business, okay? Let's go right into our first one, and that is taxes. So if you're watching this channel, you probably either want to live in the US, vacation in the US, or get a job in the US temporarily. Now, if you want to start a business in the United States, then lower taxes can be very good, right? That's more money you get to keep. So if your goal is to start a business or to start a family, the deduction, the amount of money you can claim to be free of taxation, you pay zero tax on a certain amount of money, that's doubled, right? So you save more money if you want to move to America, start a family, maybe get a wife or husband, depending on who you are, have some children, start a business. The recent tax law might be very good for you. Now, however, if you're just trying to be an employee, sure, you save a little bit of tax money, but at the end of the day, things aren't a whole lot better. Your situation is pretty much the same, to my understanding. Immigration is probably the process you are going through if you're coming to America. And immigration falls into two different sides in the political conversation. The first side is meritocracy. What can you offer America that would make us want you? Now, I did a video on meritocracy. I invite you to see that. I'll put a link to it, and you'll see it in a card at the end of this video. So there's meritocracy. Can you start a business? Can you give us money? Will you adapt to our culture? Will you promote our values? And then there's humanitarian, right? We need to help the poor. We need to bring in people who are struggling, who have nowhere to go, who are dealing with dictatorships and gangs and a lot of dangerous situations, right? Those are the two sides. We need to help these people, or we should only let in people who can help us. So with Donald Trump, the immigration is going towards meritocracy, right? What can you bring to us that will make us want you to come? And so I recommend in this situation, work on your skills, right? Build job skills that America needs. If you have some money, definitely use that to start a business. If you want to go shopping in America, that's great. They're happy to have you. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be any humanitarian aid. There won't be anybody let in because they need help. There still will be. It's just the number is going to be smaller. And if you are on that side, you have my greatest sympathies. And things will probably change at some point. The politics are like a seesaw, right? Sometimes something's popular and then it becomes a little less popular. Then the other thing becomes popular. Sometimes you just gotta wait. I know that's really tough to hear. And then for the people who are who have something to offer, and America is opening its doors to the people who have something to offer, I can only wish you the best of luck. Another thing that Donald has done is lower regulations. Now, sometimes government passes laws, and the intent of these laws on paper are to protect the environment, protect the safety of people working around a workplace, and it's good to have some rules, but sometimes people go overboard. They go too far, and it becomes very difficult to do business. And many people who have businesses complained to Trump. They said, Trump, we can't run our businesses well unless you get rid of these regulations. And I don't know all the regulations he's gotten rid of. There's thousands, tens of thousands of them. I would have to be reading for days and days and days. And by the time I made this video, it would be too late. There'd be more regulation. So some regulations we have to assume are unnecessary, and some are very important. Now, if you're running a business, less regulations means you can do more. You can do more with less. But higher regulations means if you want to start a business, the cost to start a business is higher. You will often see a situation where 3 or 4 businesses have ruled an entire industry. That's called an oligopoly. And they will increase regulations. They will try to get the government to pass more laws so that way no new business owner can come in. So less regulation, good for new business. And more regulation, good for the big businesses that are already in place. Now, H-1B visas. If you are trying to get an H-1B visa, take hope. I know that last year many people got H-1B visas, and the numbers are about the same as they were back in Obama's day. However, if he's going to do what he said he's going to do, then the number of H-1B visas is going to go down. I don't know how far down, but it will go down a little bit. So if you're applying for an H-1B visa, you really want to come to America, still apply, and you may get in. I hope you do. I hope that the people who watch English Win are the most successful people. Now, why lower numbers of H-1B visas? Well, the more foreign workers come in, the more people are competing for the same jobs. That means lower wages for Americans and more difficulty getting a job. But on the other hand, if there are fewer H-1B visas, Americans at home have an easier time getting a job, and the pay is usually higher. So those are the forces at work. And many people argue that if you take the smartest people from other countries and bring them to America, then those other countries lose their smartest people. And the problems those countries have get worse because there are fewer smart people there to solve them. So those are the debate issues going on. Whatever side you are on, I hope things go very well for you. The situation in the world, the political situation, the economic situation, that doesn't have to be your individual situation, right? That's why we learn, that's why we improve, that's why we try hard, and that's why I think because you're watching English Win, you have a very good chance. Now, if I was trying to get an H-1B visa or move to America to work, I would choose a high demand field: healthcare, tech, engineering, construction, things like that, things that people demand, people really want to have in America. Or you can have money to invest or try to start a business. Do things that will give you merit in Trump's America. And if you're just going to visit family and you're applying for a visa, make sure that people know where you're going to stay, how long you're going to stay, and that you have a good reason to come back home. That should improve your chances a little bit when you visit that visa office. So this whole video is just my question to you. How do you think Donald Trump has affected you living outside of the United States? I want to know. I hope this video helped you a lot. And if it did, please like, subscribe, share. Check out the Good to Know Business English playlist and one other video I think you might like. I'll see you over there, English winners.